أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد واجبر وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. This week we were blessed with the wiladat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we're also mourned the wafat and passing away of his noble daughter, Lady Zainab alayhi salam. One might ask as to what is the effect of these celebrations for Imam Ali, mourning for Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and these ceremonies that we have as followers of Ahlul Bayt, as Shia. What are the effect? Why do we do this? And the best answer that we can give is that when you mourn or when you remember Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, you're enhancing your own life. You're improving your own life, meaning that you're doing this for yourself, because we need them more than they need us. And when somebody falls in love with Imam Ali, once someone's life is filled with Ali alayhi salam, he realizes who God is, and he aligns himself with the teachings of the Prophet of Islam. So therefore, to be a true muwahhid, to be a true monotheist, you have to love the monotheist. You have to love the true muwahhid. And when you love him, your life starts to become more like him. Did you notice when you love somebody, when you like somebody, did you start to become like them? It is how Seyyed Mutahari mentions when somebody wants to move a bundle of steel, for example. That bundle of steel, you can either take it and it's heavy by yourself and take it with workers and put it somewhere manually, very painstakingly. Or you can take a magnet and take this bundle of steel and attract it and bring it and move it to where you need to move it to. The love of Ali alayhi salam is like the second way, is that because the obligations are so hard for us, our nafs is ammara bisu, our desires are constantly, perpetually commanding us towards evil. But on the other side, when you love Ali alayhi salam, you start to become like him. You get so attracted to him because his personality was so great, was so attractive, that he would attract everyone. And you see, it's been around 1400 years that Imam Ali alayhi salam has passed away, and still Christians, Shia, Sunni, non-Muslims, they still write about him and love him. We mentioned this time and time again. George Jordan mentioned if Allah took away all of our blessings and instead put one more Ali ibn Abi Talib for us, it would be worth it. So when you begin to love Imam Ali and you incorporate him in your daily life, Ahlul Bayt is part of your lifestyle, remembering them, crying for them, and reading about them is part of you, it becomes much easier to become a better person. Imagine without this love, because love, as Seyyed Mutahari mentions, is like an engine. It pushes you. Knowledge are like headlights, it gives you direction. But that push is from love. So my recommendation for ourselves to enhance our lives, to improve our lives, is to love Imam Ali even more. We truly don't love Imam Ali how we should. We think that just that we have a few celebrations for him, that's enough, but it's not. One of our great Maraj Taqleed at the age of about 100, Ayatollah Wahid Khurasani, I was hearing him asking Imam Zaman to forgive him, saying, Imam Zaman, forgive me, because I have not come to know you. I do not know you. After 100 years of studying, say for at least 90 years, 80 years of studying and teaching, he's complaining at the end of his life that this is where he is advising us, and this is for us. We haven't reached that age. We haven't reached that knowledge. Did I wish that I have come to know Imam Zaman even more. And he asks for forgiveness because of his humility, obviously. And second of all, he says, I am sorry because I did not introduce Imam Mahdi to the world. So we have this duty to know Ahlul Bayt, especially Imam Zaman, especially Imam Ali alayhi salam. Second of all, introduce them to the world. We will regret this, brothers and sisters. When you look at those close companions of Imam Ali, like Malik of Imam Ali alayhi salam, when you look at Abbas of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when you look at Muhammad ibn Muslim or Zurara, Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we wish that we were those very close companions, because what did they do? They never rested. They never had a break. 24/7 they were working in the line of Ali alayhi salam. 24/7 they were working in the line of Ahlul Bayt. They didn't rest. Yes, resting, and that is still for Allah, but their entire life was for the service of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And if you want to be a good companion of Imam Mahdi, you have to work for it. You can't just say, yes, I'm going to be of the 313. Yes, I'm going to be of the tens of thousands of companions of Imam Mahdi, and not work for it, not do anything for during his occultation. When they ask, what did you do when Imam Mahdi was in occultation? What did you do? Did you at least try to get to know him? Did you at least try to introduce him to somebody? And then you want to be one of the 313? Yes, we can do dua for him. I'm not saying don't do dua for him. Yes, we do make dua. But they will ask us, what did you do during this occultation? What did you do during this tough time? So the best way for us to get better, the best way for us to get to know God, is to love Imam Ali, read about Imam Ali. If we could give speeches for the entire Rajab and Sha'ban, Ramadan about Imam Ali, would be worth it for us about his life. Because truly he is a treasure. And tonight we're going to talk about how we can be impacted more and influenced more by Imam Ali. That is the best way. And hopefully after mentioning him, Imam Zaman will approve of us. And inshallah, Rasulullah will approve of us, because nobody loved Imam Ali alayhi salam as much as Rasulullah. Sometimes Imam Ali would go to battle, and Sunni sources has he would make dua that Allah allow me to see Ali again. Rasulullah loved him so much. At the age of 5, 6, he adopted him. And he truly was a lover of Ali. It's a sunnah of the Prophet to love Ali. It's hadith of the Prophet that love of Ali is iman, is faith. Hatred of Imam Ali alayhi salam is nifaq and hypocrisy. So when you look at his holy life, you look at, first of all, when you look at how to become guided, we read verses in the Holy Quran about guidance. One of these verses is a very interesting verse. It's about Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And Allah in the Quran in 61:14 advises us to be like the companions of Isa alayhi salam, to be like the disciples of Isa alayhi salam. This is how the Quran guides us to itself, and then the Quran guides us towards imamat. Quran, there's a flow of guidance. Allah guides you towards himself, then he guides you towards the Quran. You read the Quran, you read about Kamal ad-Din and perfection of religion, and you ask, how did that happen? Al-Yawm, that day? And they say, with the wilayat of Imam Ali. And in this verse, for example, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu kunu ansar Allah. Be ansar Allah. Be the helpers of Allah. Be the aiders of Allah. The Quran is telling us. Who? Ansar Allah. Kama qala Isa ibn Maryam للحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله. Who's going to help me towards Allah? Be Ansar Allah like them. When Isa says, who's going to help me? Because every prophet needs assisters. Every prophet needs helpers. Who's going to help me? The Quran says, be like them. Kunu Ansar Allah. When he said, قال, من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله. We are the Ansar Allah. We are the helpers of Allah. Whatever you say upon our eyes, upon our heads, Isa alayhi salam, whatever you say, we will fulfill. The Quran is saying, be like that. Be a true follower. Be a true submitter to insan al-kamil, to the perfect human being. The Quran is teaching us how to be a good Shia, So therefore you see the flow of guidance, that Allah guides you to Himself. Then His book, and the book is saying, be like Ansar Allah, kunu Ansar Allah. Meaning this, for us, how does that apply to us? Well, Jesus alayhi is, in the heavens right now. He is not present right now. He's not even in this world. So you understand that, okay, when the Prophet of Islam, those that read it during the Prophet of Islam, be the same way, be Ansar Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then after him, be Ansar Ali, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil. Be Ansar Ali, be Ansar of that Hujjat of a God upon the earth. That is the struggle. This struggle that we see today is not something new. We were going over the life of the different prophets. One of the prophets that probably lived around 200-300 years after Adam alayhi salam was Idris. Say Enoch, Prophet Enoch. And actually he has a book, there's a book of Enoch in Judaic and Christian sources that talks about the end of times. And one of the parts that we talk about Imam Zaman and what's going to happen at the end of times, there's references you can use from that book. He had the same way after Adam alayhi salam, the same issues. Prophet Idris had is 200-300 years after Prophet Adam, the beginning of the man's civilization. You had a group that would drink alcohol, and you had a group that would follow Prophet Idris. Same story. A group that would do polytheism, and a group that would do tawheed and follow him. A group that would be tyrannical and submit to a tyrannical ruler during the time of Prophet Idris, and Prophet Idris that despises tyrannical ruler and made Allah had him send him as a messenger after this tyrannical king came and he took away someone's land and executed him, and they made dua against these people in that city. Bala happened to that city. So this is a repetitive theme that we see all the time between al-haq and batil, the truth and falsehood. It's not something new that you see sins and people forget about God and people leave tawheed, leave oneness of God, and leave the hujjat of Allah. It's a continuous theme that we've had occurring from the beginning, from Prophet Adam's time till now. So we see in the Quran that the Quran is saying, what is our duty? Very clear, to be Ansar Allah, to submit to the complete human being, to submit to Imam Mahdi, to submit towards Ahlul Bayt, the prophets of God. It's the same thing. They're Warathul Anbiya in Ziyarat Jama'ah. We read about Ahlul Bayt. They're the inheritors of the prophets. Actually, physical inheritors. Many of the items and belongings that belongs to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, they got inherited and came to Imam Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajah. They're warath, meaning and those physical items they have too, and also the teachings of those prophets the Ahlul Bayt have. So if you want to learn about Isa, Musa alayhi salam, if you want to learn about these prophets, you come to Ali alayhi salam, you come to Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. So the Quran is teaching us to something very simple, but it is very hard to do. To be a true follower of a hujjat of Allah, like Isa alayhi salam and like Imam Mahdi. Inshallah, we believe as Shias, we believe that Isa alayhi salam will come back. We believe he comes back, and even in Sunni sources it has that he will come back and the Mahdi will be present, and Isa alayhi salam will pray behind Imam Mahdi. He will be the wazir of Imam Mahdi. This is the position of Imam Mahdi. And some of the Sunni ulama, they get perplexed. How can a normal, if they don't believe in imamat, in the hujjat of God, how can a prophet pray behind somebody that is not, doesn't have, it's a non-prophet? And then Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, one of the main commentators of Sahih Bukhari, mentions, because the world can never be left of a hujjah. And he says this hadith. There always has to be a hujjah. Imam Mahdi is the hujjatullah. So we have, alhamdulillah, for us, if we really understand, Allah has made it very clear for us as followers of Ahlul Bayt. There's no confusion. Is there any confusion on what to do? No. Because He brought them, He brought the Imams, 250 years of imamat that were living with the people, and all these sayings in a hadith that we have, And then Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Faraja mentioned in his tawqi or in his hadith that those that are Ammal Hawadith al-Waqa'a, those new events, refer to those of Rawata Ahadithana, or those that give the narrations, those that teach the narrations, and you follow them for your halal and haram. Very clear for us. So clear that right now you can go on the phone and ask, I have a question, what is my taklif here in this? You ask the office of your manager taklif, he'll say according, and this is from studying the hadith, realizing the hadith, he'll tell you this is your duty right now. Alhamdulillah, for our ulama that have spent in this treasure we have of Qala al-Baghir, Qala al-Sadiq, this treasure of following Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So the more that your heart is with Ali alayhi salam, the more that your heart is with Ali alayhi salam, the more that you will be enhanced, the more you will be a better believer. We said it's like a magnet. The better that person attracting you is, the more azim that person is, the more he will. Ali alayhi salam has that ability. Because in the signs it says he's the Naba'ul Azim, he's the great event in the hadith. Or it says there's no ayah akbar minni, there's no sign of God higher than me. She is the highest sign of Allah. So therefore when you love Ali alayhi salam, when you remember Ahlul Bayt, you start to become like Ali. Without even thinking about it, you start to become guided. And that is why maybe we could say one of the philosophies behind tawassul in this barakat of mentioning Ahlul Bayt is so that you love them more, you respect them more. You understand how much they worked for you. All the time Ahlul Bayt are working for us, we don't even know. All the time Imam Mahdi is saving us, we don't even know from bala. All the time he is guiding us, we don't even know. He's protecting us, we don't even know. And then when you mention their holy names and your dua is answered, you say, I'm indebted to you, Amir al-Mu'mineen. I'm indebted to you. I'm a slave of you. I'm a servant of you. You're indebted to them. And then what happens when you're indebted to him? You start to follow everything he says. You start to become like him. Let's look at the life of Imam Ali. One of the ways that he encouraged us, Imam Ali, was knowledge, the first way. Imam Ali enhances us, our lives are enhanced by how much importance Imam Ali gave to his followers about knowledge. Not to be ignorant, not to be ignorant Shia, to be knowledgeable Shia. Spend time studying, spend time reading and researching. If you look at the Hawza, what is the main action our ulama do? They've read the hadith. Their main action is studying and teaching. Big ibadat. Tafakkur is a big ibadat. Thinking is a big ibadat. Alayhi salam in the hadith, when coming and helping and guiding us to enhance our lives, during the battle of Jamal, it was a harsh battle. And it was a time that you don't ask people theological questions during that time. Sometimes I'm late and I have to go somewhere else. They ask me, I'm like, look, I have to go. They asked Imam Ali in the middle of a battle. They asked Imam theological questions about God. Explain God to me. And the companions, Abbas says, leave him alone. He is the general. He is the commander. We're at war. People are dying. People are losing their lives right now. Can this wait? You allow him a few hours and he'll answer all your questions, brother. You go. So he asked this question. أَتَقُولُ إِنَّ اللَّهِ وَاحِدٌ? Do you say Allah is wahid? And Imam Ali alayhi salam, the Arabi, this Arabi came to him. فَحَمَلَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهِ. The people came and attacked him and says, what are you doing? This is battle. And mentions here, فَقَالَ أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ دَعُوهُ. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. فَإِنَّ الَّذِي يُرِيدُهُ لَلْعَرَبِي هُوَ الَّذِي نُرِيدُهُ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ. Leave him alone, because that same thing he wants to know, is God one or not, about Tawheed, is what we want from the people. This is the entire purpose of the battle. You're asking for Tawheed, and they said, leave him alone, let me answer him. Because the entire reason people are dying right now is so they can come into Tawheed. So this is the emphasis that Ali had on knowledge, that if you ask him in the middle of battlefield about Tawheed, he will answer you. Or you look in other hadith, He says, do not become like a worshipper of Allah without knowledge. In al-ikhtisas it has al-muta'abbid ala ghayr fiqh. Fiqh, and when you look at these hadith, it doesn't mean jurisprudence or Islamic law, fiqh. There's a shift from the original language spoken 1400 years ago, 1200 years ago, and now. For example, makruh. When you say makruh, what do you usually think of makruh? It's discouraged, better not to do it. After Allama Hilli mentioned these, makruh. But then from the time of hadith, makruh, some fuqaha says dhahiran, it might mean haram, makruh. So you always have, when the Quran came and during Asr Tashri, during that time, what is the meaning of it then? So when you say, for example, fiqh, today it means jurisprudence, but fiqh means knowledge in Arabic, deep knowledge. So a person that worships God from Imam Ali, ala ghayra fiqhin ka himarin tahuna, is like a mill donkey, a donkey that is used to grind either wheat or whatever to make to later make flour. It goes in a circle, right? That they didn't have electricity back then. They needed a source of power, and so therefore animals were used to turn the mill. He says it's like that donkey that's just going in a circle and going in a circle. He's worshiping God. It's good. Maybe someone says, okay, I just worship God. I don't need any more knowledge. But he's like that donkey, Ali alayhi salam says in the hadith. Just going in circle and a circle. Yaduru wala yabra. It rotates but does not leave its place. It doesn't go anywhere. SubhanAllah, we always think that, knowledge, worship is the end. That's it. Okay, we've come to his knowledge. That's it. Leave the books behind. Leave the Sharia behind. It's time for tariqah, as some of the Sufis say, that you go, it's time to follow, my murshid and follow him. Actually, he says, no, keep studying knowledge. Have more knowledge. Study. Then you will know, because that knowledgeable person will know what is right and what is wrong, what is aham, what is most important, and what is muhim. Want to visit my parents, when maybe one day I shouldn't visit them, for example. When I should go to the masjid, when I shouldn't go to the masjid. He balances. A person that has knowledge, a person that has wisdom, knows his duty. It's more important to fulfill your duty right than just to worship and go in a circle and just, I think I'm doing something good. A lot of believers, they do harm to themselves, to their families, because they don't have the proper knowledge. Because they don't know. And therefore they do things that they think this is commanding the good, amr b'ma'ruf. They think this is enjoining the good. They think this is forbidding the good. Actually, this is hurting and harming more. They just didn't have knowledge. So that scholar has knowledge. That's why the worship of the scholar, the Quran mentions those that truly fear Allah, the ulama, those that have knowledge, they truly fear Allah. Al-ilmu afdalul hidayah, Imam Ali alayhi salam in hadith. So this is the guidance of Imam Ali. You need a guide. He is guiding you. Look at his books. Look at his hadith that his books are in. When you love Ali, you study every single, you try to study what he says. Al-ilmu afdalu hidayah. Do you want guidance? Seek knowledge. Seek knowledge. I'll see what the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam said. Al-ilmu yahdi ila al-haq, from Imam Ali. Knowledge guides towards the truth. كما إن العلم يهدي المار وينجيه كذلك الجهل يضله ويرديه. So therefore, just as knowledge guides a man and saves him, in the same manner ignorance misguides him and destroys him. So the lover, the follower of Imam Ali is encouraged when Imam Ali would come to the bazaar, to the merchants, with a whip sometimes, and to threaten them, that first you have to have fiqh before matjar, before business transactions, know halal and haram of business, so you don't get into usury. A lot of times I see in the community, very easy, some things like riba and getting loans. It's very easy. Oh, I thought that was halal, brother. I said, it's not halal. How did you know that it was halal? MashaAllah, nice. They just didn't even care. They just didn't even think about it. And I tell them away. I said, okay, you can do the same thing, but do it with this intention. You can get that mortgage. You can get that loan. But with this way, it's not a loan. Do it with this intention. Sometimes they say, I don't like it. I don't like that way. So then, okay, then don't get a loan. by cash, or rent. We give you the way. We tell you because you have to study it. Sometimes there's things we just don't know is usury, it's a riba. Some things we think is riba and usury, it's not riba and usury. We have to study, we have to have knowledge. We don't want to be like that animal that's going in a circle, not going anywhere. Imam Ali alayhi salam, another dimension of his life, so the dimension of directing towards knowledge. Even in battle, he is answering questions. The second, and concerned about Tawheed. The second is this. You read about Imam Ali, he's known as Abul Ajaib, father of wonders. When you go to and study the life of one person, usually they have like one highlight, two highlights, one good trait, two good traits. But whenever you go to the life of Ali alayhi salam, it's like an endless garden of fruits and spiritual akhlaq that you see in different dimensions that each time surprises you. It's an endless garden of spiritual traits that Ali alayhi salam has. Prophet of Islam in Shahr Ramadan is approaching. He would cry because the Rasulullah loved Imam Ali. Believe me, the way we love Imam is nothing compared to how the Prophet loved him. He raised him. He was his successor. At the end of his life, he opened 1,000 doors of knowledge to Imam Ali. And each door, another 1,000 doors opened. And he was titled, Bab, the door of Madinatul Ilm. The Rasulullah was the city of knowledge. And Ali was its gate. The way to enter is him. So he loved him. And when he gives him this foreknowledge, Rasulullah has foreknowledge. He knows what's going to happen. He is the best human being. And he begins to cry, ثُمَّ بَكَى فَقُلْتُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. This beautiful conversation between Ali and Rasulullah. There's hadith from Sunni sources. When the Prophet went to Mi'raj, and there has to be a sound that communicates with him and Rasulullah. You can't just make any sound because God doesn't have any physical form or physical place. There has to be a method of communication. He communicated in Sunni hadith it has with the voice of Ali for the Prophet. Through the voice of Ali. And mentioned in that hadith because we saw this voice was what calmed you the most. This is the voice that you like the most. The voice of Ali. So the hadith, the Prophet is crying. It's a hadith with the Prophet of Islam and Imam Ali. بكى فقلت يا رسول الله ما بيبكيك. Why do you cry? So much adab Ali has. So much mannerisms he has. Do you have Nahjul Balagha during the time of Rasulullah? No. Do you have speeches of Imam Ali much when Rasulullah was present? Did he not know how to speak? Did he not have the highest level of eloquence? Silent. He was silent. We don't have this hadith, much conversation during the time of Rasulullah because of that adab, because the Rasulullah is here. Imam Ali has mannerisms. Imam Hassan, same way when Imam Ali was alive. Quiet. Imam Hussein, same way. Publicly, I'm saying. Yes, they would, of course, enjoin the good, forbid the evil, but those types of khutbahs happened when it was his turn, after the Prophet passed away. So he says, why do you cry? Ya Ali, abki lama yustahallu minka fi hadha ash-shahr. He says, I cry because what has been made lawful in this month. The Prophet of Islam was crying. As if I am with you. It says, ka'anni bika. As if I am with you. When Ali walked in Masjid al-Kufa, the Prophet is saying, I was with you. As if I was with you. That's how close they are. The nafsun wahida with Rasulullah. There's one nafs. And then mentions وَأَنْتِ يُسَلِّمْ, and he mentions to him, you were praying, and the foremost of the first and the last strikes, and covers your beard, becomes colored with blood. And Ali alayhi salam has this question here. It's very interesting. Imagine somebody told us today, brother, for example, at the certain month, somebody's going to come and shoot you, for example. Someone's going to come and shoot you or hit you with the sword. He's like, who is it? Let me, tell me who it is. Let me right away. Let me stop. How does he do it? But isn't that the normal question you have is, what's going to happen to me? You're caring about yourself. But Ali alayhi salam has, as I said, this question that he is in a totally different dimension than us. We would care for ourselves. Can I stop it? Can I not stop it? What should I do? But Ali alayhi salam asks this question. He says, وَذَلِكَ فِي صَلَاةٍ, and he asks him this question, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, وَذَلِكَ فِي سَلَامَةٍ مِنْ دِينِي. How will my religion be when I am struck? He doesn't ask what will happen to me, who's going to hit me, what's going to happen. How is my religion? How is my deen when I will be hit? Again, I said, a completely different worldview that Ali alayhi salam has. You know, that what will my iman be? Is that how much we care about ourselves, as I said? If somebody says you will get shot, and so, would you say, how will my religion? I'm telling you, you will be shot. This is, how will my religion be that day? Will I be guided? Will I not be guided? So that fear of misguidance. And he's Ali alayhi salam. He's not a normal person. He's Imam. He's Imam. We have in the hadith that he guided Musa alayhi salam. That Musa in hadith spoke to Allah through the wilayat of Ali. And Jesus in hadith cured the sick through the wilayat of Ali alayhi salam. Hadith we have. And he is asking, what is my religion will be? How is my relationship with God be? And فَقَالَ فِي سَلَامَةٍ مِنْ دِينِي. I'm sure that Rasulullah was very happy with his answer. That he says, yes, your deen will be intact. So this is another step that we learn and enhance ourselves. Because you have that danger, believers have that danger of thinking, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. I've been worshiping Allah so many years. You know, I'm not new. That new person needs to worry about their religion, not me. I've been worshiping for so many years, and mashallah, my du'as are being answered, and I go to the masjid, and alhamdulillah, I eat the food afterwards. I'm having a good time. I'm having a good life, mashallah. Don't tell me about misguidance. But to learn from Imam Ali alayhi salam, how will my deen be? And you learn from Ibn Muljam, the killer of Imam Ali alayhi salam, that he flipped 180 degrees. A lover of Ali, then a killer of Ali. Right? So you see, nobody is intact. When you talk about guidance, and you see every day we say, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, and the hadith has, Adim lana tawfiqak, or tawfiq. Continue for me my tawfiq. Keep me musallin. Allow me, Allah, to keep praying every day. I don't know if tomorrow if I pray or not. I really don't. I don't know if something will happen in my mind. I might think of something weird, and I'll be misguided. I don't know if I'll commit an act, and my nafs amara basu will be so wrong. Allah says, Allah does not guide those that do dhulm and sin. That Allah will cause a barrier between me and my heart and iman. I don't know this. So that the believer has learned to enhance himself, to always be careful. When you have something precious, aren't you very careful? If I gave you right now $1 million cash, how careful? You know, I don't have that type of money, alhamdulillah. But if I had, I gave it to you, where would you do? You go like this, with your briefcase, and where would you do it? This wilayat of Ali alayhi salam we have is so precious for us. We have to hide it and protect it. Anything, it can go. Anytime it can go. One of the ulama speakers would go to Mashhad, and he would be a guest of Ayatollah Hadi Milani, Ayatollah al-Udhma Hadi Milani, great Maraj al-Taqlid. You know, he's one of the Maraj al-Taqlid that is Dr. Muslim, that came from Europe or Belgium. Because when he was performing surgery on him, he says, what is this person saying, this scholar saying when he's waking up? He's performing surgery on him. What is he saying? And he says he's doing the dua of Abu Hamza Thumali. Beautiful dua. When he's waking up, it's not in his own hands. He just started saying Abu Hamza Thumali. He says, bring down. He's very interested. He said, what is this saying? Write down. What is it? And he listens to the dua Abu Hamza from Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. This encourages him to become Muslim Shia. And he's buried in the shrine of Mashhad, because he was in Mashhad. He came to help out, and later on he was buried in Mashhad. He says, because I performed surgery on different people in Europe, on different clergy. When they were waking up from surgery, they were singing songs, music, that other people were doing. Just like the normal, because you can't hide that time. I can hide myself and look very pious, Assalamu alaikum, Allahu Akbar when I pray, and seem religious. But if you sedate me and wake me up, maybe you don't know what's going to happen. But Ayatollah Milani was in the way he did dua. Abu Hamza, he was speaking to Allah. He invited the Sheikh in Mashhad, because he invited the Sheikh, this preacher, and he says, come to my house whenever you come to Mashhad, let me take care of you. He's a mujtahid, marja. And he says, I was so embarrassed that a mujtahid would invite me to his house. And so one time I didn't. I came to Mashhad, I prayed behind him. He would pray in the haram. But I didn't go to his house. He says, when he was walking through the people, he came right next to me. He found me. He says, SubhanAllah, I was trying to hide from him. He just came in front of me and he's looking. He says, why don't you come to my house? You're in Mashhad. Why don't you come to my house? Imam Rida alayhi salam, the way that he treats his traveler is different than the way he treats someone that lives in Mashhad. He's saying, I need your benefit. You're a traveler of Imam Rida. You're a guest of Imam Rida. Please let me take care of you. So he spends, his time with him. And he says, go there, I just want you to do this. When you go to the shrine, say to Imam Rida alayhi salam that Hadi Milani, ask him, go towards the shrine, ask Imam Abul Hassan this, that Hadi Milani dies the death of a Muslim. Dies the death of a Muslim. Worried that much of his guidance. Worried that much of his Islam. As I said, if it's very precious for you, you do dua to keep it. Look at us, how we don't care so much. We go out wherever we want, watch whatever we want, read whatever we want. And we don't, as if, what we have been given is worthless. A person protects his iman, a person protects his religion. And we learned that from Imam Ali, that he says, you will be killed in Shahr Ramadan, or you will be killed. He says, what about my deen? So that's lesson number 2 from Imam Ali. Lesson number 1 was seeking knowledge even in the battlefield, answering questions. Number 2 was when you're told what's going to happen to you, you're worried about your guidance. Imam Ali alayhi salam, compassion, love. He was so kind. He was so kind. How infinitely great he is, infinitely kind he is. Very kind. Who else do you know that he comes, and the hadith has from Abu Tufail, رَأَيْتُ عَلِيًّا يَدْعُ الْيَتَامَى, bring the orphans, فَيُطْعِمُهُمْ الْعَسَلِ, he would give them honey, the orphans. He's a king, so many things, you're too busy, you have a vast empire. Giving orphans honey, giving them, some food. قال بعض أصحابه لوددت أني كنت يتيما. The way that he would give compassion and love to the orphans. The companions wish we were orphans. And Ali would feed us. He would play with them. Play with them. As I said before, the hadith we have that Imam Ali had about 1,000 scars in hadith. 1,000 scars. This is, during his khilafah is the last part of his life. How many battles from the Prophet, from Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, all the way, keep counting, and he was at the forefront. He was injured heavily in some of these battles. Just some of these battles, maybe 70 times he was injured. And then his own battles, of Jamal, of Siffin, of Nahrawan. And you see during that time, all these scars, and he's Abul Ajaib, because he is the combination of opposites. Usually a harsh person that is in so many battles, he doesn't have that much compassion towards a little kid. He's too busy, but he did. And that's what makes him the combination of adad, of impossibilities, of contradictions. Or his first command to Ibn Muljam, his first command to be kind to your asir. First command. They offer him milk. He says, what about Ibn Muljam? He struck you on the head. He struck you on the head in the masjid as a coward. When you're in ruku or you're in sujood, he struck you when you're coming up. But you are wondering how is he doing? And there's this conversation, it's not Shahr Ramadan, but I want you later on read that conversation between Imam Ali ibn Muljam. And he complains to him, says, Abbas Imam, was I a bad Imam for you? Or was I a bad? And I had showed you so much love. And worried about, when he is hit, what's Ibn Muljam going to do? So this is Ali alayhi salam. He does this to his enemy. Imagine his friends, how he'll treat his friends. Imagine he'll treat his lovers. Those that love Imam Hassan and Hussein, his children, those that love Lady Zainab. Imagine what he'll do with them. That is why the love of Imam Ali is so important for us. To build that lifestyle of love, of listening to the hadith of Imam Ali, listening to the madh and the praise and eulogy of Imam Ali over and over in different, sometimes I like to listen to it in different languages. So I don't speak Urdu much, but I like to listen to it in Urdu. I like it to be international in English and Arabic and Farsi and Urdu. I like to listen to that praise because for me it's so sweet. I love Imam Ali to be recognized throughout the entire world as So this is a big for us, a big factor. And you want to be good? Love Imam Ali. Cry for Imam Ali. And we see his sincerity. I will end his justice, another story. I wish we had all the way to Shahr Ramadan, we'll talk about Imam Ali, Imam Ali, Imam Ali. Some of our ulama, they just read the hadith of Imam Ali and just cry and shed tears and be so excited about hearing the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam. His justice. I say one thing about his justice and one thing about his sincerity. That he would tell Muawiyah, Wallah ma Muawiyatu bi'adha minni. Muawiyah is not more cunning than me. Muawiyah tricked people. He had a lot of strategy, but Imam Ali, did he not know those strategies? Did he not know? Was he simple? No. He was fair. He fought Muawiyah as a fair person. Obviously, when you're fair, your hands are tied. You can't do what they do. When they cut off water to you, you do not cut off water to them. You're fair. So much fair was Imam Ali. That's when you know when someone is just. And in battle, he is just. وَلَكِنَّهُ يَغْدِرُ وَيَفْجُرُ. But Muawiyah deceives and commits evil deeds. وَلَوْلَا كَرَاهِيَةُ الْغَدْرِ. If I didn't despise deceit, I hated to deceive people. I didn't want to deceive people. I wanted to be true to them. If I wasn't the fact that I wasn't reprehensive of deceit, I would have been the most cunning of people. لَكُنْتُ مِنْ أَدْهَى النَّاسِ. I would have tricked and deceived everyone. But I wanted to be true to them. I wanted to be fair to them. So much so, Edward Gibbons, a non-Muslim, this is the way he talks about Imam Ali alayhi salam in his book, History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The Caliph Ali displayed a superior character of valor and humanity, bravery and humanity, being a good human. It's not us as Shias saying this. Those that are non-Muslim. His troops were strictly enjoined to wait the first onset of the enemy. His troops waited for the enemy to attack first. He waited for them so they can attack. This is Imam Ali. To spare their fleeing brethren. If someone is running away in battle, do not chase him. Let him go. Don't chase him. His back is towards you. And to respect the bodies of the dead. Now that they're dead, leave their bodies alone. Maybe your brother, or they killed your family member, leave their body alone. And the chastity of the female captives. Ali alayhi salam, you weren't there, what they did to Lady Zainab alayhi salam and their grandchildren. Paraded them around, the streets. Paraded them in the suq and aswaq. People, Lady Zainab in her speech says they were specifically and distinctively looking at the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the daughters of Rasulullah. The chastity of the female captives. The ranks of the Syrians were broken by the charge of the hero. he would break open, the battlefront. He would lead the charge. He is the general, he is the commander, he is the Khalifa. He would lead it. They would break open the ranks. Who was mounted on a piebald horse and wielded with irresistible force his ponderous and two-edged sword. Or George Jordan saying that when he compared Imam Ali's human rights to others, he says, but wherever Ali has placed his foot, everyone else talked about human rights and wrote it, but Ali practiced human rights. He practiced and died, and he says, wherever Ali placed his foot and whenever he said anything or unsheathed his sword, he did so to destroy tyranny and oppression. The sword of Ali, Dhul Faqar, was against tyranny and oppression, and leveled the ground to march forward on the path of truth and justice. So much so that he met his martyrdom in defense of human rights, George Jordan says. He became shaheed for justice. He was so just, they killed him. Although during his life, he had already been martyred thousands of times. He was already martyred 1,000 times. Don't say he was martyred on that day. So therefore, when you love Ali, you become just. You think of the truth. You think of oppression. We talked about the hadith on Friday prayer that Rasulullah sometimes would get so angry. Rasulullah, not for the dunya, but because of truth, defending the truth, he would get so angry that they say you could not recognize Rasulullah anymore. You couldn't recognize him anymore. And he wouldn't stop until he made that falsehood into the truth again. This is Islam. It's a powerful religion. Powerful, role models that we have. And the last is this, that Imam Ali alayhi salam, in his sincerity, when they came to attack Rasulullah, and each group said, we'll have a sword and we'll hit Rasulullah. Each tribe will take one person to kill him in Laylatul Mabit. And it was a certain death. Ali alayhi salam was sleeping in the place of Rasulullah, being that person under, say, that blanket, to pretend he was Rasulullah so that he could take the swords. So when they come to stab, each person would come to stab, they wouldn't have a problem with Bani Hashim because there's so many tribes and they all sent one person to do this. So they finally kill Rasulullah before Hijrah. Imam Ali alayhi salam slept in that bed. Who's willing to sleep in that bed? That in the middle of the night, 40 swords will come towards you. Allah protected Imam Ali. And then Imam Ali acted as many times in the Quran. And Allah revealed. Imam Ali acts, Allah reveals. And Allah reveals, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِ نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ 2:207. And of the people is who sells himself. Imam Ali sold himself. Everything he had, he gave it to Allah. He sold him. For what, though? What did he get instead? He sold himself to get the satisfaction of God. Means of the approval of God. Meaning that Imam Ali's sincerity is so high in the Quran. Quran mentions it as selling yourself. Everything that you have, he gave it to God. So therefore, we see these lessons from Ali, that how does the love of Ali alayhi salam enhance us when you talk about, when you come to the masjid, come to the centers. Fortunately, many people think you can practice Islam very good in the US or in the West without coming to the masjid. This is what the conclusion they came in after COVID. They think that you don't really need the masjid anymore. You don't need Jamaat anymore. You don't need to, I'll just watch YouTube. If they watch that, I'll watch some YouTube. But you need to come here. We need to come and learn about Imam Ali. You need to hear these things in person, hadith in person, and has a much different effect. And you learn from Imam Ali alayhi salam, his sincerity, we talked about, his justice, his seek for knowledge, and his compassion, and his willing to always ask if he is guided or not. These are things that will enhance us, inshallah, and make us much better people when we love Ali alayhi salam. Inshallah, that we are in the path of Ali alayhi salam. We have one of our dear leaders, Muslim community leaders, that is very sick right now. Brother Mujahid. They requested that dua will be heard. He spent a life of helping and guiding people, especially in the African American community, bringing peace with the Bloods and Crips, Brother Mujahid. And right now he's sick, he needs our du'as. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ. Ya Allah, because of Ali and Muhammad and Ali, cure Shaykh Mujahid, brother Mujahid, immediately, inshallah, from his sickness. Cure all those that are sick, inshallah. Give rahmat and mercy to all those that have passed away, especially the founder of the center. Ya Allah, make us to always in the path of Ali alayhi salam, in our life in a way that Ali is always in front of us. The great height and pinnacle of the life of Ali alayhi salam is always in front of us, and we're walking in that direction, inshallah. Ya Allah, allow us to know more about Imam Ali. Allow us to love Ali alayhi salam even more, to love Rasulullah even more, to be a follower of Imam Zaman, inshallah, and expedite the return of Imam Zaman with a salawat ala